Hello Edexcel students, a great video for you here. This is hot topics, topic areas that you need to weigh up, not just for paper 1, but potential for paper 3 as well. So that if these topic areas feature as an essay question in some form, you've got the knowledge in grade, you can smash it if it does come up. Bear in mind this is not just 25 markers, this could be short essays too. But your job is only to add weight in your revision to these topic areas, not to disregard other topic areas. You want to be revising everything. So if these come up, great, but even if they don't come up, you revised everything else, whereby you can still ace your exam and answer great essays. And also know that this video is one of many in my revision for 2025 exams playlist. Make sure you watch all the videos in that playlist. All those videos are geared to helping you revise amazingly to then secure these top grades in your final exams. So here we go with the first hot topic area. Labour markets. There have been so many themes in the UK recently, labour market related, that examiners can latch onto and ask you an essay question about. For example, the last 2.5 years, how trade unions have been very strong, very powerful, bargaining for higher wages, organising many strikes. So knowing the pros and cons of trade unions, knowing the impact of strike action is very much worth adding to your revision if you haven't done it already. But also how since COVID, public sector pay has been heavily restricted. That's the impact of monopsony power in a labour market. How the Conservative Party ended the cap on bankers' bonuses, knowing the pros and cons of that, whether that was a good move or not a good move. And how more recently the labour market here have enacted a whole set of labour market regulations to improve working conditions for workers, to improve worker interests, to make sure they're more secure in their jobs as well. So for example, banning flexible labour market contracts like 0 hours contracts, making sure that practices like fire rehire have been banned as well, making sure that workers are more secure in their jobs, tightening job security, making it easier for trade unions to organise strikes, making it easier for workers to be members of a trade union. But also the Labour Party have enacted regulations to ensure that workers have the right to flexible working. So some working from home, some working from the office. They've enacted a lot of regulations like that. So knowing the impacts of those regulations, whether they're in the interests of workers, whether they could be anti-business, the pros and cons of those regulations are worth knowing too. Next is market failure, a huge topic area. You know it's going to be featuring somewhere in paper 1 or paper 3 this year. And often when these questions come up, they're linked to very recent modern examples of market failures. I'll give you a few examples on the negative externality side that could feature first. So the rise of vaping, it's not just the negative externalities linked to smoking these vapes, but also the disposal of vapes, the environmental market failure, even smoking traditional cigarettes. There have been calls recently for a complete outright ban on smoking cigarettes, just full stop. So knowing about the market failures there and policies that can be used to solve is really good. How in the UK, a national scandal, our water companies have been dumping raw sewage into our rivers, oceans and lakes as a cost-cutting measure. A dramatic example of a huge environmental market failure there. Could easily be a feature of an essay this year. Then we have global market failures like climate change. We've been discussing a carbon tax in the UK, whether we should introduce one, pros and cons of that. We've introduced our own tradable pollution permit scheme because we left the EU. We're no longer a part of the EU emissions trading scheme. We have our own scheme. Another global market failure, plastic waste, policies to deal with that, policies to encourage more recycling. How minimum pricing on alcohol in Scotland has been raised. So knowing about the impacts of minimum pricing, whether raising it is necessary or not, pros and cons there. The rise of gambling, not just physical gambling, but online gambling. How addictive that is, the negative externalities linked to that, policies to improve it, worth knowing. Health bodies have been calling for a fat tax in the UK, so that's linked to obesity-related market failure. And also how food prices the last 1.5 to 2 years have been increasing dramatically. Negative externality, maybe inequity is more than market failure there. How unfair that is, how in particular that burdens those on low incomes very heavily. Again, whether policies can be used to make food prices more affordable or to help households out who are struggling to afford those high food prices. On the positive externality side of childcare, there are many positive externalities that are associated with high quality, affordable childcare. And in the UK, childcare has become so unaffordable that many parents need to take time off work or just not work at all to look after their kids. The UK is missing out on that welfare gain from really high quality. Affordable childcare, so policies to make it better, certainly something to bear in mind in your revision. On the state provision side, we can question whether these markets are really working well. Healthcare, dentistry, many people in the UK struggling to access affordable NHS provided dentistry services. Tuition fees, whether they need to be looked at, whether state provision is a better alternative, but also internet provision, whether we need kind of state provided internet for those on very low incomes. So bear that in mind on the positive externality side, but also generally as state provision debate. Something a little bit different is how HS2, there have been cuts to HS2, the northern leg of HS2 has been cut on the grounds that it's simply unaffordable. So knowing the impacts of that, the damage that can do, whether that's a good thing, whether that's a bad thing. But also on the public goods side, flood defences, just knowing what the market failure is and potential policy solutions there, given the massive flooding issues we've seen in the last few years in the UK. And lastly, the housing market. This is again an inequity related market failure. How house prices have gone up so much since COVID, very unaffordable for first time buyers, for those on low incomes to get on the housing ladder, but also how the rental market has gone berserk the last couple of years. Even rents now so high in major cities, very unaffordable for a lot of people to access the housing market in that sense. Next is market structures, very weighty topic area. You need to be revising this very well. I'd be focusing on perfect competition, monopolistic competition, oligopoly, but also price discrimination, given the rise in surge pricing the last year and a half or so, but also as a con of a competitive market, the rise of drip pricing. So I'd be focusing on those market structures a little bit more, but learn them all, but a bit more focus on those ones. But also kind of within this topic area is the impact of business closures. How in the UK the last 2 years, so many businesses have been forced to shut down. So knowing the reasons for business shutdown and whether there is a role for government intervention to help businesses out, in particular, given the huge cost pressures that they've been facing since COVID. So knowing a bit about that, but also I'd be revising business objectives very well. Knowing your business objectives, knowing why businesses might pursue those, knowing how to evaluate them is a worthwhile addition to your revision as well. Extra weight there. Next is the topic area of government intervention within market structures. This is always an Edexcel favourite. You need to be revising this one really hard. But also looking at major themes at the moment where you might get an essay question. For example, the CMA is investigating the market for vets in the UK. It's investigating baby formula. So know a bit about why the CMA is investigating there, how the public interest is being harmed, what policy interventions could be used. But also know about how big tech are being heavily investigated and regulated across the EU and in the UK for perceived monopoly abuses. There is a windfall tax on their revenue, but also other regulation options are being considered. So big tech is a big one there. But also our water companies dumping raw sewage into our rivers, oceans and lakes as a cost-cutting measure, the need for greater regulation there, Ofwat to be more interventionist to stop that happening. Also the windfall tax imposed on energy companies, not the retailers but the manufacturers. So for example BP, Shell and Exxon face a windfall tax on their profits, which has now been increased and extended all the way through to 2029. So know that as an intervention, the impacts of that, pros and cons of that. But also know of notable mergers recently that the CMA have investigated. The EE3 merger with mobile phone networks comes to mind, Microsoft, Activision. Good to have some recent examples of mergers, can easily be an essay question right there. And also a major theme within this topic area is that of nationalisation, especially with the Labour Party in charge. How the steel industry is facing calls for complete nationalisation. We've had issues with the steel plant in Port Talbot, issues currently with steel plants in Scunthorpe, the role of nationalisation there to help out, secure jobs, but also make sure that a major industry that's necessary for economic security is safeguarded. But also how the Labour Party have renationalised rail recently, how they've set up a publicly owned renewable energy company called Great British Energy. But also there are talks of potentially nationalising water companies. The Labour Party don't want to do it, but they might be forced to do it in the end, like Thames Water being taken under public ownership. So just know about nationalisation linking to those themes, yes, but the pros and cons, making sure your theory is very strong too. So there you have it guys, hot topic areas for you to weigh up in your revision, whereby if they do feature, you're laughing, you've got that knowledge in grade, you're feeling great, you can answer the essay great, but you're only adding weight to these topic areas If they don't feature, other topics feature more predominantly, doesn't matter. You revise those too, where you can still ace the essay. So use the advice in this video really well. Hopefully you revise great. These essays come up and you smash it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you all in the next video.